So how does your speaking voice influence engagement? There are so many Google posts about this. And it's not always dealing with schools. It's whether you're a professional speaker, whether you're the boss, manager, it really makes a big difference on how you speak and who you're going to reach. A lot of them are, do you feel like you're talking and no one's listening? I know a lot of teachers can relate to that. We're going to talk really specifically about that right now. So I have a quick survey or thoughts for you. I would love for you to think about a time when you've been sitting in a professional development where the instructor was extremely soft-spoken and didn't really seem to care one way or the other. They almost sounded irritated that you were bothering them or here or asking questions. They were talking really monotone, like they were bored. I'm thinking Ferris Bueller type, they're there. They're giving you the information, but they don't really care, or even angry. I actually went to a professional development. It was on a new computer program that people were not pleased to be adopting. So the clientele is not the most fun. She came in, she was so soft-spoken, and she looked very nervous because she probably knew that from our administrators that we as teachers weren't super excited. She went from being really soft-spoken. Then when we tried, because she was so soft-spoken, a lot of people couldn't hear her, so we're trying to find links or buttons. And this is back, when all of this was so very new. And when I leaned over to help my colleagues so they didn't get behind, she completely scolded me in front of everybody for trying to help somebody instead of stopping her and asking her to repeat it. She wanted to be the only person with any knowledge in there. And instantly got fired up and very, very angry. Now, keep in mind, this was not done in a mean way. This was not done as a jerk. This was just a colleague next to me who was quite a bit older than me and not well versed in the technology. And he was going to need a little bit more step-by-step help. I don't remember the software she taught. I don't really remember the purpose of the software she taught. I don't remember what we were supposed to use it for. What I remember is that she seemed scared, then she seemed intimidated or frightened that somebody else might have the information, and then very angry if we weren't listening to her, maybe in her insecurity. So I don't really remember, though, what she was actually there to show us, other than it was on a computer screen, because I remember being scolded, not as a professional, not as a person, but almost like you would talk to your dog. Like, no, you don't do that. It was very strange. But I wonder sometimes, excuse my dog's laying under me, I wonder sometimes if our students feel the same way. Do they feel like, we come in, we're trying to share with them, we're talking, and then when they don't listen or if they try to help each other, we get very angry and scold them in front of everybody. And I wonder what they remember. I'm sure we've all had days like this where we've been really frustrated, but that's what we're going to talk about in this time together. So I love this expression. I heard this, and I put a link to this article down below, but it says tone of voice matters as much to humans as it does to puppies. And you know that feeling when you walk in and you talk to your dog. If you've been angry, they cower. It doesn't matter what you're saying. You can be saying good dog in a mean way, and that doesn't really matter. So we always want to watch our tone. Our tone will get a lot more engagement. So if we are positive, upbeat, encouraging, and really can keep an eye on what our tone is, we work really hard not to create a negative space. Remember that positivity always wins when you're trying to build engagement. And if you look for the positive and reward it, remember that if you look for the positivity in your students, they're going to also look for it in you. The other thing about tone of voice is sincerity counts. Students need to see consistency to build trust. So we talked about that pushback in week 1. We talked about tone of voice as well, but we're really going to build on it here. You need to be the same in your classroom as your words say, as your actions say. And so for me, I have a little sticky note right on my computer. It says present, loving, and encouraging. Now we're going to talk about this a little bit more. But if I think about those 3 words, that's who I try to be. That's when they're talking to me, I try to be present with that one person. I try to be loving and be that person for them that can really encourage them to move forward. And I also want, well, I just used the word there, right? Encouraging. I want to encourage them to be the best person they can be. Now, if you are bored with the content, you need to find a way to get a little bit more excited about it. We all think about Ferris Bueller's Day Off when we think about that bored, monotone teacher. But having that monotone voice really does affect how engaged student can be with your material and with your words and with your stories. If you are finding that the content is getting a little old, stale, you've taught this so many times, can you tell a story? Can you make it your own? Can you think of some time when this happened? Sometimes I like to think fondly on old students. One time I had a student and they didn't learn it this way, but they learned it this way. So I'm going to show you both ways, and that way we can make sure you understand it today. That sincerity will count. So make sure that they understand. If you are excited about something, don't sound like Ferris Bueller's teacher, right? Don't look like Ben Stiller there. So we want to make sure that what we tell students, if we tell them that education is important, we need to use our voice to show that it's important. So what we say and how we say it has to match, or they are going to think of us as liars. And so in Unit 2, we kind of talked about with friends how they could tell they were a liar, how they could figure that all out. So if you're thinking to yourself, how can I improve my speaking voice so that I talk in a way where people want to listen to me, where my words match my actions and my tone? I would encourage you, first of all, to slow down. Teachers feel so very hurried. And I tell you this, and it's something I still struggle with. I'm probably talking too fast during this presentation. So I have worked very hard. I put a timer on and I say, I need to slow down. If the first time I say it takes 6 minutes, the next time I want to say it, it should take 10, right? I need to slow my words down so that you have time to process. I need to pause so that you have time to process, and so do your students. The other thing that I find very difficult, but very helpful, is to record and then listen to your voice. So I go back, as difficult as it is to listen to your own voice, I do go back and listen to these videos and watch these videos. Now that is not easy for me. I'm not going to lie here. It is very hard for me. I can be very critical of myself, but we're going to talk about that in just a few moments. So take a few minutes, think about your speaking voice, think about what your students hear. If they could see just you and your sound was muted, would that match what you are talking about or what you are saying? If you took just your words, would your tone match what you are saying? All of those things matter. They need to be congruent. And with doing that, you're going to get less pushback. You're going to get substantially higher engagement. These are research-based, and I've included some links right below the videos so that you can take a look. But it really does matter. Your speaking voice really does matter. And it's amazing. So this adds no time to your classroom. It takes no more preparation, but just be aware of it. So that ends this part about your speaking voice. We're going to jump right into the next, where we talk about how to remain positive.